Okay, we're recording. So show your sweater.
Oh,
This is the
hello,
sweater that
welcome to Distaff.
why.
I just made this sweater.
It's awesome.
It's like for when you're having a fat tummy day. So,
It's so cute, and you had stripes, and it's a roll neck.
and
And
all it
so
is one rectangle with a hole in the middle.
oh, I love it.
And then you sew
And
at the
sleeves,
side.
though, but sleeves you had to do.
Sleeves were I just made them up. Like
That's
they're
so
like 1
cute.
inch and I still have a thread. Anyway, okay, show your nail
Oh, here's
blonding.
all so you do a whole sweater, I did a bracelet.
Let me see, but it's the old school, it's before knitting needles were invented, right?
Yeah,
And
the
how did you
old
make it?
just with the knot binding where you do it with this thing. Well, and I'm trying to make this hat, but I don't think I'll make it.
Whoa.
But it's this where you just wrap it around your thumb. They didn't knit with 2 sticks. They would wrap it around their thumb and loop it. It's just a looping.
Is it
So,
sort of like and they would use bone needles, right? And
yeah, bone or wood, sometimes metal.
oh, look at how
But it's
cool that
so
is.
nice. Yeah. But your sweater's amazing, and we're both wearing white. We're just gonna have a culty day.
We're having we're pure today.
We're pure, yes.
All right, well, welcome. We are, now I think we're coming to the most exciting part, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I think we are focusing there's 2 sagas, as we've always been talking about, the Greenlanders
Mhm.
and, the saga of Eric the Red,
Yep.
and I think Sarah, has been patient with me throughout this season in that, the 2 sagas, yeah, because Gudrid, we think, already went to North America with the Thorstein husband, right? Um,
No, I don't think so. I
oh,
think
you
they
don't think so? Okay. All right.
well, I guess that's interesting.
We could
Like, you're thinking she
compare
went with Thorvald's first when Thorvald went so the one saga, it has Thorvald going with Leif and who knows who, maybe Gudrid, I don't know, and he gets shot there, and they bring his body back.
right, right,
Um, but they don't say she went on that. The only thing they talk about with her and Thornstein is they tried, and they
right.
sailed around all summer, and then
Yeah,
maybe they shipwrecked, and that's when he died, or maybe they got home, and that's when he died.
yeah. And the
But, I
point you
mean,
brought oh, yeah, go ahead.
the fact that there's 2 sagas, I think I it doesn't bother me, and actually, I think gives us more freedom to give all the information, right? And then people can
True,
decide for themselves, I
true.
think.
Yeah, true. And so I think, I guess we'll let you are the saga girl. How do you want to tell this story of them
Did you do
arriving?
an outline? I love your outlines.
Oh,
Or no?
what I did to prepare is I read both the sagas, their descriptions of how they arrived, what happened when they were there, and, um, but no.
Okay.
You wanna approach it.
Well, let's just tell I don't know, this story geographic really, when I was going through, I wrote some questions like, "What would I wanna know about this journey?" And what excited me the very first time I heard about this journey, because
Okay.
I think for some people that might be listening, we know it so well that but
Yeah.
it is really news to people that European people went to North America this far back. This is 1000 AD.
Mhm.
So that's 400, almost 500 years before Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah.
And what we learn through these sagas is that they maybe weren't even the first ones. Maybe they
Right.
were, but maybe not. They're just exploration is happening by unnamed, unknown, unlauded people, I guess is the word,
Mhm.
during this time that we don't even know about. So our textbooks in school taught us about Magellan and Columbus and, these, and I guess in my mind, I just give all exploration off to them, but really what was happening is these little groups of people and families and for their own individual needs that, we need more fire, what we need more wood, we need more food, we want to explore, or we just love it, we want to go, was happening globally. So
Mhm.
we get through the saga a little bit of an example of that. And we don't learn in history books about these people. At least I didn't. I don't know if they do now, but this isn't part of who discovered North America. It's not going to be Gudrid and Carl Snuffy and Leif Erikson, That's just
And
some kind of
what I love about this particular, story and about Gudrid is it tells a different story of someone discovering a land where peoples had lived for thousands, hundreds of
right,
thousands of years.
right. The word discovery is very loose.
Yeah, and they happen upon, as all the other Viking people are doing in this time frame in Russia and um, they happen upon a civilization that, is doing just fine without them.
Mhm.
And what I love about this story is they realize we are not welcome here. This is not our place, and they leave. So,
Yeah, and I
um,
was thinking about that. I'm like, these are warriors. These are people that, I mean, They f I know Carl Snuffy is a merchant, but they're there with, even Leif himself fought with the king, and he wasn't with him on this journey, but they're with these men that are fighters, and they all know how to fight and protect themselves. And I thought, well, were they afraid, or was it just a mathematical, were they tired? And I wondered if maybe they just weren't up to dealing with a whole bunch of pagans again, like,
oh, what
there's
an interesting thought.
this group of people that were, especially Leif or Leif? Is it
I
Leif?
don't
Leif?
know.
Who was, mandated by his Christian king in Norway to go spread the gospel. They didn't, for some reason, that was just not, they didn't wanna spread it to these people. So there was a stopping point of where they were.
It's actually the moment that we'll talk about is very dramatic in the
Mhm.
sense that we're talking this whole time about this clash of religious systems um, and and we get an example of this in this story. Their
Yeah.
clash with and it's particularly with the bull, which is, symbolic. So anyway, I love this. I'm excited to share this story. So should we sketch out
Yeah, I
the
kinda did a little bit of a, maybe this is the way to do it. Let's give a skeleton of
yes.
there's one way you could do it, we could go step by step, and they tell the story, and they land here, and they land here. I think I don't know, it's so emotional because they had such a great time. This is such a positive thing they did, I think, the way that I just feel happy for them on this trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so I think we'll just tell, if you don't mind,
Uh,
like, we'll go if they went here, 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 here. Here's what it says in the sagas about each place. Here where we think the modern day place is. Is that okay?
yes.
And then go
Awesome.
back and flesh out the stories because they really do kind of land in one place and base themselves out of one place. And then
Mhm.
that then spread from there. Is that all right?
I think that's important for our listeners who have been patient with our wanderings, and now we're at the moment, and I think we do need to sketch that out and then flesh it out. I
Okay.
agree.
And I will put up a map in post production for people that are
Oh,
watching. For people that are listening, if you can just imagine Greenland, right? It's up kind of this dangling, that
participle.
huge peninsula, yeah, piece of land. And Iceland's over to its east, Ireland's over to its very far southeast. And to the west, very close, is Canada, basically, and Newfoundland, right?
Mhm.
Newfoundland.
Yeah.
So, and then if you go and what I was reading is that they really did. The people in Greenland were really going over. I think it's Labrador, right?
Yes. Yeah. They've
Pretty
even named
often.
the islands enough times.
Yeah, so they called it Markland, but it's Labrador, and they did go over there quite a bit to get wood. So it wasn't this unknown place. They were going to get wood from
Mhm.
there. And like you said, it's 5 days in this saga, and, they call it, sometimes it was 2 days if they had good winds to just get, so it's not a big, huge deal. And
Yeah.
like you said, they sailed up the coast of Greenland. So they left Brattahlid, which is in the most southern tip of Greenland, and they took off going north. Um, hold on, I'm wrong. Yeah, to northwest, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
please stop me if I'm wrong or if you
Okay.
okay.
You're usually never wrong, so
Well,
I'm sitting back for you're a great storyteller, so I'm
well,
just enjoying.
okay, so they took off to the northwest. So you think, well, they're going to America. Why are they going northwest? Well, they don't know they're going to America. They're heading with the winds, and they had the right winds, and they knew where the wood was, and they head up, and they're going to explore. They
Mhm.
go northwest, and they end up in Helluland, Helluland, Helluland. And that is the present day called Baffin Island. So if you look at a map, that's Baffin Island. And there are cruises you can take that will take you through the, like, I even printed off
Really?
cruise line, Viking ship cruise tour. You leave from Nova Scotia and go to Newfoundland, Labrador, Baffin Island, and over to so we should do that maybe.
I think we should have a podcast cruise.
Yeah, I know.
We should all bring our knitting
Yeah,
and
you
yeah.
start in Salem, get on
Yes!
the boat. So, anyway, so Baffin Island is kind of, yeah, it's the very, if you look at Canada, um, it's it's the Labrador Sea. It's way the heck up there. So,
Mhm.
they saw that on Baffin, on Helluland. There were large flat stones, glaciers and tundra. So it wasn't your ideal place to
Mhm.
take a camp. So then they started sailing. So then they went along that coastline. So now they're off the coast of Canada and they're coming down south.
And it is like what we talked about last week, they do prefer to keep a coastline,
Hmm.
uh, because, I mean, they knew latitude and longitude, there's proof that they did know how to reckon longitude even back then, even if they didn't know what it was called. They
Right.
had ways of doing that, so
They had
I
that
don't know why.
tool, the not Astro Glide.
Yeah, I always say it wrong, Polaris thing?
Yeah, yeah, that
We
they
don't
could
know. Don't go to
pull it
a
up.
ship
It had
YouTube.
notches in the side of it, and they could use a star, and then they could, yeah. So they knew how to navigate. Plus, they would want to be by the coast because they could camp there at night,
Mhm,
cook,
mhm,
use the restroom, probably, whatever.
mhm.
So then they started sailing along that coast, and they went past Labrador, which is, they called it Markland, but it's present-day Labrador, and that's where maybe they already were kind of familiar with. So, they had good northerly winds. So northerly means the wind's blowing from the north. So they had good winds with them
Mhm.
and making good time. And then they hit an island called Bjarni Island, and Bjarn means bear, polar bear. So some island that had polar bears.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And wasn't that the island that was so full of poop,
Mhm.
it looked like piles of
Oh,
poop?
yeah, that was leaving. Yeah. Okay. They actually thought that was maybe from their own cattle, the island of poop.
Oh,
The way
oh,
out, I think.
maybe they stopped there and shoveled out their barge, their
Maybe. Ooh, oh, that's organized. Huh.
yeah.
So, yeah, so it had a lot of timber, but it had a lot of polar bears, so they named it Bjarni Island,
Hmm.
and they're not sure which one this is. They think it could be Disco, Disko Island, or just some small island off of Newfoundland, or even off of Labrador itself. So, they don't know for sure what island
Okay.
that was. But obviously, they didn't stay there for very long because all the bears. And then
Yes.
they went down and, went to Kiarnis, which is interesting because it's in both sagas, um, but identified in different ways. One way, it was
Mhm.
that one group, the group that they did the one big trip, I think,
Yeah.
landed there and found the keel of a ship. So they found somebody else's keel of some
Right.
other person had been there, and it was the keel of a ship in that saga. In the other saga where there are multiple journeys, they attribute it, I think, to being Leif's
Like
boat.
he built a
Yeah,
or repaired a boat there.
but
So
either
they're
way,
either way, they're they're not alone. They've got their own traces they're leaving for each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is where so that's northern Newfoundland.
Okay.
And it's a headland, a prominent point reached after sailing south from Markland. And then they go to Lonzo Meadows,
Okay.
which is also Newfoundland, like you said, and it's on the northern tip, right? It's not far from where they find the keel of the ship.
Right.
Am I right on that?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, and that is where you could say they built a camp there, or that Eric had already built his camp there, but that's where they're gonna base out of.
Yeah. And
Okay.
this is you're talking Lansa Meadows. That's where yeah. And this is where you can go there. And there's this is this where the sculpture of Gudrid and her baby
Uh-huh.
Snorri is?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
there's
a
a picture, I can put a picture up there too. I better
yeah, it's
mark.
really cool. But he built a whole compound. Like it's got several buildings and I think they were planning to base themselves out of there, and then it seemed like you were gonna continue, but
But
they
you're
kept
right, yeah.
exploring for years.
And they called it Stromford. They didn't call it Lonsay Meadows. They called it
Yeah.
Stromford.
Okay.
And they describe it with lots of rivers that come through it, and just the way it's described in these sagas is just almost giddy with how much bounty, how much there was there for them.
Mhm.
Um,
And someone mentioned, the way they were very good at recognizing a value of a place. Like, they would look for the springs, they'd look for the streams, they'd look for even, Lanso Meadows had the iron bog peat already there that they could forge iron out of, so Leaf had done a good job.
yeah. And remember they had brought women, livestock, so they were ready to find a place to kinda settle and
Mhm,
then explore from.
mhm,
So, through the saga then, they do go explore, and they go find a place called Furdo Furthostrandir, Wonder Strands, and
hmm,
I Googled Earth this because 'cause I'm like, "Where is this place?" It's described as big, long beaches
hmm,
along, and, it's they call it they think what I read is possibly Newfoundland or Gulf of St. Lawrence coast.
hmm.
I personally believe, and this map even says it, I think it's off Nova Scotia, off the and I Googled Earth it, and they're awesome beaches, these big, long
Wow.
beaches that they call wonder beaches, which is so cute.
Yeah. Well, probably think about how I mean, I think they had a tide situation with it, right? So they had to but how nice to beach your ship on
Mhm.
sand and not, that was probably kinda nice.
Yeah, just to sail up on it.
That's
And
just a
then and that was long sandy shorelines, and then from there, my thing doesn't go play, but then they spread out, and then they have a group of them that will go back up the Gulf of St. Lawrence and kind of even past on their way to Lake Ontario. You
Yeah.
said that we think they could have gotten all the way to Chicago, which
The
I'm like, well, what they would had to navigate Niagara Falls, or maybe they portaged.
well, the established the Draken team that recreated it and got all the way to Chicago with their Viking Knarr, um, realized the Indians had already of course, the Indians, but the native peoples living there, they were traders all up and down both
Right,
continents. So
right.
there was a established portage trail that they could portage their boat around
Oh,
Niagara Falls. And also in Chicago, there was a portage trail to join the head of the Mississippi River. So they could
wow,
have gone anywhere.
holy cow.
Yeah. We just don't have evidence. We have some
Well, of
evidence
course they
of it.
did, of course, all of that was happening before Columbus.
Yeah.
Wow,
He's
we
just
just
a
haven't found it
bozo.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what's
and
cool about it is what's exciting, that initial excitement is no king sent them. This is a group of normal people who, you know,
they're not
just
out to conquer, they're out,
no.
out to make war.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, so that's really cool. So, yeah, so then you had a group that went that way, you had a group from this main shoving, um, Stromford. Oh, am I right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Lonsdale Meadows isn't Stromford.
I think it's
Stringford.
that they did several, they just haven't been found yet. But to my reading of both the sagas, they seem to have set up several
Yeah,
sites,
right.
right?
Yeah, and I started going even in as I was reading the sagas.
And they were pretty smart about splitting up. Like they'd say,
Mhm.
you guys go north, we'll go south, we'll meet up. And um,
Yeah.
they had a plan, which is exactly what Eric the Red did when he figured out Greenland for 3 years. He spent time checking stuff out. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. La, 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 they went to the Wonder Shore, so now I'm reading out of the saga because it was so
Yeah.
the coast became clear. Um, so they then yeah, some of them went down as far as we think to Hop, and I think that was Gudrid and Karsnuffy went down there.
Mhm.
And the way
Mhm.
they describe Hop, they're calling it the tidal pool. Hop means tidal pool, and this is probably in New
Mhm.
York.
Mm.
Um, but the way that they describe it is, let me just get this to what they're saying. Um, sailed to the mouth of the river and called the land Hop. There they found fields of wild wheat, wherever there were low grounds, mines in all places, full of fish, halibut. They were amusing themselves. There were animals in every form. There was wood. It's just like every Viking's dream. They were
Yeah.
finding these locations. It just must have been like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of
And
my
and
geographic.
warmer. They note how
Oh, yeah.
nice the winter was. And but what the one thing I thought about when you said that is they would have known someone had sowed that field then.
Mm.
They would have known
Yeah.
that there were people there.
They're calling it self-sowing wheat, and maybe it was sown it's not self-sowing, it's indigenous grown
Yeah.
wheat.
I I mean, I'd love to explore that a little more.
That's interesting, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, but it
they
said
probably
they enjoyed the land's bounties and
mhm,
all the good things. Hmm,
yeah, and
okay.
they so now do you wanna flesh in a little bit about what their day-to-day life was or
Well,
what you think about it?
could you hit some points, like, when she had the baby, like, how long they stayed? Can we flesh that out a little bit? And
It
then
depends on your saga again, You can say they stayed for 3 seasons, or you can say they came back and forth a couple times. Um, some say they left when she had the baby, um, but I think I don't know, either way, they established a home there. It felt like they had made it a home, and they had figured things out enough. Even if you wanna blend it, like, if Leif had done it before, they'd built a settlement, a longhouse and its outbuildings. They found those on Lonsay Meadows.
Mhm.
They had figured out their livestock was thriving there. They could let
Mhm.
their livestock run wild. They didn't have to fence it in, which
Right.
would have been great because we know all about the guards and how boundaries and borders were pretty important to them.
Mhm.
Uh, they They had plenty of food, they never talk about starving. The only problem they ever had other than the big problem that happened at the end was just single men not having women, you know?
Right. They got jealous of the guys that
Mhm.
had wives with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and women were having babies, and they were creating a life there and exploring, and they had interesting characters with them. They had,
Mm.
2 Scotsmen that had been given by King Olaf, I think,
And
too late.
definitely thralls because they described their clothing as the thrall outfit,
Okay.
which had no sleeves and was just a
Yeah.
shift.
Those 2. They buttoned at the crotch, I think, kinda almost
Mhm.
like I don't
And
know.
they sent them off just what? They dropped them off and said, "Go run as far as you can
Mhm.
and then come back," or
And come back, and they did. It was a man and a woman, and they ran. They just, like, almost like scouts go out,
Yeah.
and they would run. They were known for running, and they came back with grapes and, you know, so
I mean,
it's
they
a
knew they were good at exploring and they had an eye to trading.
mhm.
So, yeah.
And then, someone else they had their pagan group, the man that
Yeah.
came with them, who was, I think, with Freydis,
Uh-huh.
and also his name was Thor All. She's married
Yeah.
to a Thor Val, Freydis. This guy is Thor All, and again, like I said, the 2 sagas, one saga doesn't talk about Thor, this pagan group that was with them at all.
Mhm.
And so when things happen in this saga, in both sagas have a story about they are kinda hungry. I think they're newly there, so they haven't
Mm.
quite established it yet. So I almost picture them like the Mayflower landed on the beach or whatever, trying to get established. And in one saga, they find this whale
Oh, yeah.
and they bring it in or it's there and they eat it and it nourishes them. I've told this before and it's healthy. And then the same saga in the same place, with the Thorall, the pagan, he's the one that finds the whale or helps bring it in, and they all
Mhm.
start eating it, and he says, "By the way, I gave this" the quote is, "Has it not been that Redbeard," who's Thor, "Redbeard has proved a better friend than your Christ." So
Mm.
whale meat, this pagan guy, and he's this dark well, they say dark, scruffy dark, I think, in spirit,
Mhm.
scruffy friend. He's been a family friend. Do you wanna add to this? I feel like you know more than I
No,
do.
I'm loving it. No, I love this. I love it.
He's just kinda like he Leif grew up with him and loves him, right? He's the one that was treated like his father just was very Eric,
Well,
again, is pagan, so
one
this is
saga calls him his foster father.
yeah, so it's Eric's really good friend who we know Eric is super pagan, this is his super pagan buddy.
Mhm.
Everybody's kinda like, even the way it's written is he's weird and
Yeah.
Um, so he blesses as they're eating this whale, he says, "See, Thor's taking better care of you than this Christ, because here we have this whale." And he does this poem, and we know poems have kennings in them, which is
Mhm.
the different things mean different, uh, words create it's basically giving definitions through poem or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so as then the people stopped eating it, and the ones that had eaten it got really sick, and the ones who heard this didn't eat it. So it was just this, I don't know.
They had, I mean, it throughout, you could definitely write a whole thing on the conflict between pagan and Christian existing on this trip.
Right.
Um, and also, you can definitely tell when the Christian people are like, "Oh," it's just a lot of tension
Yeah.
around this, which reflects upon the general tension of this time period on Earth in 1000 AD.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It said that this is a Christian interpretation. I'm not using this is not from my whatever, the one I'm using. But said that they threw down the meat and turned to God and prayed for supplication that they had partaken of this pagan blessed food or whatever. And then at that very moment, fish came, they basically dipped their nets into the water and got a bunch of fish or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was no lack of food that spring. So the very and again, translation, blah, 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 but I believe that that was a constant theme for these
Mhm.
people as they
Mhm.
were traveling, and every little thing would have a meaning then, and if you wanted to say it's a pagan god doing it or Christ doing it, then I think they were doing that.
It is weird they're having to navigate this synchronism between 2 religions right out on the ocean, and think
Yeah.
when things got rough. Like,
Uh-huh.
which god are you gonna pray to when the big storm shows up, Like, who are you gonna bet on, basically?
Right. We kinda talked about that, like hedging your bets,
Mhm.
on both religions. But
Interesting. Yeah, there are a bunch of good characters in these.
mhm. A lot, I mean, and you don't hate Thorvald, and he gets lost, and they have to go find him, and they finally find him on the edge of a cliff, and he's itching, and they bring him back, and they wanna leave him, and Leif is like, "No, he's been like a father to me."
Mhm.
I hope it's Leif. Is it? That loves Thorvald so much?
I
Thor
believe
Thorhall.
I
Thorhall.
believe so because, if he's Freydis's husband, they're brother-in-laws in a sense, maybe.
Yeah.
E Either
So
way, it reads that he cares about him.
yeah. Thorvald
And
is
by this time, I mean, I love how the sagas show the reality of a family trip that that has good moments and really sucky moments where you just don't even wanna be near them all, and they leave people at an island and,
yeah. I know.
they're having some
Blood.
dysfunction.
Oh, because I would love it if it was already actually Carl Snuffy who loved Thorald. So Thorald was called the sportsman. He had for a long time been Eric's companion in fishing and hunting spook. Thorald was a big, dark man of gaunt appearance, rather advanced in years, overbearing in temper, of melancholy mood,
Hmm.
silent at all times, underhand in his dealings, and with
Oh,
given to abuse and always inclined towards the worst. This is this translation.
hey,
He
well,
had
who brought him?
yeah, he had kept himself aloof from the true faith when it came to Greenland, so he is pagan. He was but little encompassed with the love of friends, but yet
Wow.
Eric had long held conversation with them, and he went in the ship with Thorvald. Oh, so he went with Thorvald. Thorvald. So he was Eric the Red. So they must have all Eric loved him,
Yeah,
Thorvald loved him. That means Thorstein loved him. Thornstein.
yeah. I mean, he's like the uncle that you just
Yeah,
have to put up with.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so then if the saga has Thorvald with him, that's fine, that makes sense. So Thorvald goes to find him, and they don't know Eric is dead at this point because he died after falling from the horse when they were leaving, so they probably did feel like they had to bring him back, sort of.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Interesting.
Anyway, do you wanna talk about the women's center and what it would have been like life around camp a little bit?
Well, um,
or how far do you wanna tell their adventure?
I think we stick with your original plan, which I liked. We could there's a point in we could enter in from the saga where it says in the summer following the first winter, Skrellings were discovered.
Which are the Native
And
Americans.
that's where Gudrid meets with
Yes, we could
the
tell that.
woman. But
We can.
I also know what you I mean, yeah, maybe we should talk about what Gudrid was doing there. And she had the baby, Freydis would have helped her. I don't know. And we can cut this part out, but
So the way that I don't know, to tell it is the women would have set up the homestead, the camp, the housing. The men would have built it one way or the other. Either it was built before or it was built then, but they had buildings, outbuildings. They had a women's area, the jinja, I think it's called.
Mhm,
Would have been weaving, sewing, making butter, making food. It would have been a bustling, just like over in Greenland, it would have been a
mhm,
bustling, productive place with boats coming and going, off to go explore, excitement when the people came back with what they found. I imagine I don't know if there was a chapel there, but I imagine some kind of religious place would have been put there.
mhm,
And then all of us they on one of the explorations, I don't they in one of the sagas, there's 2 ways that they come across the indigenous people, and you pronounced it right, it's the Scrawlings.
Skrellings.
Scrawlings, so that's translated, sadly, means barbarian or, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Um, one of the ways that they come across them is by surprise. They're on an ex they're it's course snuffy, and they are just walking and then they come across skin boats. So these boats that are flipped over on the beach and they're not quite sure. They approach them. They think
mhm.
maybe they're gifts from this group of people.
Oh,
Um, but then I think they're and 2 sagas are blending, but it ends up that there are people hiding underneath these boats and shoot at them. So there's a kind of a shootout or something.
mhm,
So that's your first hostile encounter is with this little band of indigenous people and kind of a skirmish or whatever.
mhm,
In one of the sagas, that's where Thorvald gets shot and then is brought back to Greenland. His body's brought back to Greenland. And the other one is just Carl Sneffy and his group who have this encounter. But either way, the relationship with the indigenous people, who, by the way, it's speculated that this group is the modern day Beowulf, Beou.
yeah, strongest, yep,
And
um,
then yeah, Beothuk,
uh-huh,
Beothuk.
mhm,
And then, even more anciently, so maybe even more appropriate, they're calling them Mi'kmaq, M-I,
mhm,
apostrophe Kmaq. So it is a tribe, of people that we do know a little bit about their tradition, but whatever happened in that skirmish, eventually then we find out that they do approach this town
mhm.
and Gudrid and her people, and there's trading that happens. And they, like you said, the red cloth, they either knew beforehand to bring red cloth, that these people like red cloth, which is
I feel
interesting,
like they did, which is
or they
interesting.
discovered it over if we're doing the multi-trip saga, you know,
Mhm,
the first one was a skirmish and they came back and then they knew so they loved anything dairy. So once they discovered that these people would give everything that they had to trade for anything butter, milk, cheese, um, which means that which matches with the fact that they were so surprised by their cows and their bulls that they just hadn't seen
right,
bovine type.
right.
And I don't know, did they have goats? I'm sure they were getting
They
milk.
had goats and, yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so anyway, that's what hit me is that the bull was the cattle was a weird thing and the
Yeah.
milk of the cattle.
Yeah,
Um,
they were so
yes,
excited about it. Yeah.
yeah. But
So,
what's interesting to me is, um, and the horses that they brought, and then anyway, I don't know. We'll have to cut this part out. But,
yeah, it is just there you can go all different ways with the little sentences or the little tidbits in both these sagas.
right,
You
right,
can
right.
start going, "Well, why didn't they know this? And then does that mean that?" And blah, blah, blah. You can just go it's why this is should be taught in schools and
I know, I know. And
yeah,
I did ask the same thing you did, who would they have been? And it's the what you said, the Bayo took, but it seems like the more south they went, they'd
yes,
meet different people, right?
mhm. And even north. So, in the very end, on their way out, they see a whole other group of people,
Yeah,
and they do the math that, "Oh, this chain of mountains matches this chain of mountains, and this group of people." On the way out, they see the one-legged people, right? Who
yes,
huh?
yes.
So
So there
they know some, they don't know all, and they maybe were overwhelmed by the difference of each group of indigenous tribe or some reason they just did not get the sense to go back and try to settle it.
no, because I think your point is, yeah, they would have met multiple there were multiple peoples.
Mhm.
In fact, like one count, they are thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could have met 6 to 7 different confederations,
Mm,
different tribes. And as we study the indigenous tribes, a lot of their things are similar belief systems, but they were different cultures, just like in Europe.
yeah.
So some would fight differently, some,
And
um,
they had relations with the people that were in Greenland, they knew them, they would share the same walrus hunting grounds or, so
mhm.
there were encounters with them. Supposedly, Iceland had none when the first people were I don't know, but,
Yeah,
it's not like they didn't know how to obviously, they knew how to interact with indigenous people, you know?
right. They knew they were traders. They were
Mm,
used to meeting new people, whether it be Russia or anywhere else. So for some reason, it seemed like trade went well for a minute and then it broke down.
what
And
what's the word for that Americans always use? Is it manifest destiny?
yes,
Like, was this not the right time or the right people or
I think, well, what's weird about this, we can talk about the women, but then there's also the question of what did freak both groups of people out about each other in the end to the
Really,
point
we
where
could talk about
they're
that.
running for their lives, you
Yeah,
know?
right,
Um,
both.
but I started to down a rabbit hole of, they had the Sami
Mhm,
culture in Finland and
mhm,
Norway and they by 1000 AD, they kinda had each inherited some belief
mhm.
systems and some ideas from them. So I said, "How close would these other polar people on the other side, would they have recognized their belief systems or their trading preferences, the red cloth and all that kinda stuff?" And, yeah, there would have been some similarities. Um, they recognized the skin canoes, so they
Yeah.
understood about that stuff. But then what was it about the battle or the strategy of war that freaked them out so much?
Well, there is yeah, so, going back then to their first meeting with each other, they had trade, so they were trade, and then it adds comes to the thing that freaked them out.
Mhm,
So they were trading, and what happened is I'm sure they saw these Norse or these Greenlanders, Viking dudes with the swords and the axe and the knife and just all these tools that they had, these metal tools that they
mhm.
and, when they describe the battles in a little bit, you can tell that these indigenous people don't have metal or these kind of tools, right? Or iron or so they wanted to trade those. The group of people
Yeah.
wanted like love the milk, love this cloth, that's all good, but
Mhm.
now we want can you trade us your weapons? And Carl Steffney was like, no, we're not. He's like, put all of the weapons away, put all the weapons inside, bring out the dairy, bring out and that was enough. That appeased them on those couple of first trading. That was good.
Mhm.
Fine. But then on a certain and the I guess we'll tell the story now. There was one certain trading day that was pivotal, and
Mm.
it was pivotal for me in my love of this story for 2 reasons. It was the day that I picture Gudrid was we know she was inside the women's area or in her home, and I picture it just a nice, pleasant trading day. So there's visitors trading, you can hear it, she's inside, and as a mother with a baby, you know this moment. You're in with your baby. I picture she was nursing her baby or taking care of her baby
Mhm.
or pregnant or whatever, but she's having that moment, that time where it's so busy outside and you kind of steal away for a moment of
Mhm.
quiet with your child
Mhm.
and your body's at rest, your mind's at rest, your child's at rest. You're still happy because you can hear life happening outside your door. I don't know, maybe as an introvert, this is a joy.
Oh,
When
yeah, for
your
sure.
stuff
It's good. It's like you get
a little, uh,
respite.
respite that you didn't have to awkwardly ask for, your baby gave it to you.
Yeah, yes.
But I picture her there, and I picture sun coming in and just a pleasant moment of rest with her child, and this is why I think it gets translated into some like, was she imagining this? Was she having a vision? Was it a hallucination? Was she asleep? Was it a dream? But Gudrid is with her child, and a shadow, a person, a woman comes through the door into the doorway, and the woman they describe her dress, what she's wearing in one of these sagas. And Gudrid says, I can say exactly what she says, "My name is Gudrid. What is your name?" And this apparition or whatever says, "My name is Gudrid." And so it's the story of 2 Gudrids. And
Mhm.
people make a lot out of it. Some say well, it was a ghost, some think it's a spirit, Gudrid's spirit. Her future, you can just go all over with it. My favorite way to go is that it was a young native indigenous girl.
Mhm.
Somebody wrote a really great article about it that I loved, who studied this tribe or this group of people and said that yes, young women would have worn the sash that's kind of wrapped around you and thrown over. And in 1602, there was a man that went to Martha's Vineyard, which would have been the same, and he met an indigenous man there, and the man's trick or his skill was being able to repeat English words perfectly back. So they could orally recreate different languages, even if they didn't know what they were
Wow.
saying. So the fact that Gudrid said, "My name is Gudrid," this girl would have been able to say, "My name is Gudrid." And
Mhm.
again, this is Gudrid's only person that could have told this story that's in both these sagas, I
You're
think,
right.
would have been Gudrid. So it's from this little story is from our woman herself telling
Yeah.
this, her eyewitness account of this moment, which I just love. What are your thoughts on it?
I love it for the same reasons. I love it, for the quiet, and I love it for the 2 women. While the mayhem and the man stuff's happening
Mhm.
outside, she enters the woman's space. And in one telling of it, they were speaking to each other almost telepathic, like they
Yeah,
could understand each other's language, or the gist of it is they had an understanding, or they like, you wonder how Gudrid would have told it, but it's such a cool moment, and, here you are with your baby. She's entering this private, personal moment with Gudrid, and they were seemed comfortable with each
Yeah,
other,
that's what I
right?
picture. When you are in that nursing, usually as a mother in your little nursing quiet place, the only person you'll allow there is maybe your other children to come ask for something or just wanna find you, and it's
Mhm.
usually that's a really loving you're welcoming them into your you build I'm getting woo-woo or whatever,
Oh,
but you
no, no.
do build an actual bubble around yourself in those moments.
Yeah,
The most magical thing I think that happens is a actual encirclement of protection that happens when
for
you're
sure.
nursing your baby somewhere.
And they've proven there's a release of hormones when you're nursing that releases that makes you feel really comfortable, and
Maybe that's why people get so uncomfortable when women do it in public because it's not so much the woman's doing it in public, as they're feeling that protective like
yeah,
she's creating this protective
dating.
bubble that, "Whoa," but, or, "Oh," whatever. So anyway, so to
Oh,
have girl or this woman enter into that magical protective mothering bubble, and then have them have this conversation, I think is like you're saying, that it was this quiet moment and I don't know.
and it reminds me a lot of, the moment we talked about in the first season of the, meeting of our 2 women, the
Yeah.
indigenous woman and then our colonial women, and we talked about were they understanding? What did they think of this world these men were creating? And it's a lot the same that's going on here. Um, that you wonder what they could have said to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that that this story is passed down in 2 different ways meant it was a pretty
Mhm.
interesting moment for her. Um,
Think of the pivotal, moment that could have been, because shortly right after, all hell breaks loose, but here's this moment, these 2 women are in the women realm, in, like, men meet in palaces, men meet in battlefields,
yeah,
in all these places, and these 2 women are meeting in a mothering room, and if they could have been the ones to maybe figure out the trade and how we gonna coexist and where do we go from here, and we really don't want you like, if they would have been the ones to figure maybe and this comes back to my point, it is time for women to be in
yeah.
let's turn. Can we
It is time for us to
yeah,
speak
somebody
to each
stand
other.
up.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So here is this moment where, okay, if that could have been in a different world, in a different place where those were the 2 leaders of these groups of people meeting in this moment, would have been a different outcome for everybody. I don't know, like, is
Right.
this is history filled with these would-be moments of such different outcomes if women could have been the ones?
And the fact that Gudrid, as this story was carried down, the message was received to us, they could communicate.
Yeah.
Something was communicating, something was being understood between them. And then, I mean,
Then,
you don't mind,
look,
okay.
all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah. So there
super
they are.
stupid.
Um, all the men are out there. Do you care if I read this part?
No,
Okay,
or tell it.
this is from yeah, Gudrid was sitting inside in the doorway. This is a translation. Beside the cradle of her infant son Snorri, when a shadow fell upon the door and a woman in a black garment entered. She was short in stature, wore a shawl over her head, and her hair was light brown, red brown.
Mhm.
She was pale, and her eyes were so large that never before had eyes of that size been seen in a human head. Now that's someone's weird translation, but okay.
But,
He
the modern, investigation into this group of the Bay what they do have bigger eyes, and they do
Oh,
ritual where they put red into their hair, and the way so this description fits with
wow.
what this tribe does anciently. So, the big eyes,
Okay. Yeah.
or you can go
Interesting
aliens,
detail.
whichever.
So the woman walked right up to where Gudrid was seated, which again, that's if you're nursing your baby, you're ready to uh,
Mhm.
protect. Like
Mhm.
even your toddler, if they get too close, you're not gonna. Um, and she said, "What is your name?" Um, so in this one, we have the woman instigating but we don't know. And Gudrid says, "My name is Gudrid. What is your name?" "My name is Gudrid," said she. The mistress of the house, Gudrid, motioned her with her hand to sit beside her. But so here's this moment gonna happen.
They're gonna
But
talk and
yeah, yeah, but
bond.
yeah. But it so happened that at that very instant Gudrid heard a great crash, upon which the woman vanished. And at that same moment, one of the Skraelings who had tried to seize their weapons was killed by one of Karlsefni's followers. At this, the Skraelings quickly fled, leaving their garments and trade goods behind them, and no one except Gudrid had seen this woman.
Yeah.
And
So
then Karlsefni comes in. I think they're going to visit us a third time and attack us, and we're going to go into battle. So
right,
that's
so
the
war.
default plan.
Yeah. And in one of the, sagas, it says that the reason that the Skrawling had wanted to attack is because the bull
At
had
that
crept
moment.
through. Now it came to pass that a bull, which belonged to Karl Snuffy, rushed out of the woods and bellowed loudly. So a bull came and scared them all, and they all freaked out, and they all got defensive, and what do we do when we're scared? We're gonna fight. And so they all whatever happened outside was enough that Karl Snuffy knew the next time we meet, it's gonna be a battle.
Yep.
Dang it, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
"Oh, in
And
the
if you think
world,
of our
okay,
world
fine."
right now, you know, is that yeah, we can't
Like,
talk, so let's fight.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, so get your weapons ready, and then these people go off, and they're getting their weapons ready, and
And it
that's
was
kind of the end
interesting.
of the story. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
the end, that's the end of this glorious, awesome
Yes.
time where they were trading with them and they were finding these fruits, and the way that these sagas word is they were like almost like children exploring and having this beautiful and just my own nostalgia of summer in this part of the world is
Yeah.
magical. It is.
Yeah.
It's the ocean and the smells and the trees and just and the golden sunset. I just picture, the sad end to this magical time for them.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting, and then we get into a discussion of weapons right away. We're
Right
gonna
away,
talk
back to
about,
weapon. Yeah,
the fact that the indigenous peoples grabbed one of their axes, took it
yeah,
out with them, and then they were trying to determine how it was used or the value, and so they threw a rock at it and the handle broke, and they're like, "Well, this is worthless." And doesn't that tell you so much about
yeah. Well,
these
and then the other saga, it's that they took it and they threw it at their friend, and it killed their friend, and then they looked at it and said, "This is worthless," and threw it into the ocean. So either way, they established that, "Oh, this weapon is worthless," threw it into the ocean. But what they did when they came back was, as Carl Snuffy and they're getting ready, they knew that this was gonna be, this had gone south. Um, this tribe came back with big sticks with big balls on the end of the I thought this was interesting. I tried to
I
look
did
up what could it
too.
be. So they come back and they got these big sticks with these big black balls, and the only way they could describe it is it looked like cows' stomachs, and either the
Yeah,
description makes it gross like that, or that's really what it was, but something about them kinda swirling around these sticks with these big black balls on the top of them, and then they flung them into the village or whatever, the compound, and when they splattered, it was made huge explosive sounds. So this was their big cursing or weapon or something
mm,
that freaked out the group,
mhm.
and then they started this big battle, and
Yeah, it's, I did look into it, and
Oh,
this isn't a definite answer because I asked why the reaction from the Norse people when the indigenous people's type of fighting involved hiding and popping up and
yeah.
surprise. And you'd think they would be used to that, but um, it says Karl Stephanie and Snorri see the Skraelings host a large spear on a pole, dark blue in color, which came flying over the heads and made an ugly sound. And then it says Algonquin tradition preserved the memory of exactly this kind of weapon.
Really?
A boulder, so a rock sewn tight in a skin and slung at the end of a long rod. And colonial era sources confirm indigenous people used um, no such weapon post Columbus, suggesting it was an older, perhaps abandoned technology. Um,
Because it made a
so it
huge
was likely
sound
a skin
louder than
wrap.
a rock.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It made a huge sound, so that's louder than just a rock clanging in there. It had
Ah,
something.
but
Okay, sorry.
but it's interesting that the saga here just you know, Columbus, they weren't using it. Our colonial people didn't see it. But this saga has preserved a weapon for the Algonquins that's made those connections. It wasn't something someone just made up.
That's so cool.
It's
And
so
it produced great enough terror, it says, in Carl Snuffy and his company, that the only impulse was to retreat up along the
yeah,
river.
which the Vikings never retreat, which
Yeah.
had to have been terrifying.
And it says that they went all the way, they felt like they were surrounded by the Skralingar from all sides, and they stopped not until they came to certain crags. So they were hiding now. Our Vikings are hiding, and
Mhm.
they offered them stern resistance. So this is the part where Freydis comes out and she sees that these men are retreating. She's
And she's
pregnant.
pregnant.
She which
She's
okay.
Eric the Red's daughter who came on the trip with
Mhm.
them.
Who we think pretty sure she's pagan. Not sure, but she's yeah. Freydis comes out and I picture her as Gudrid's friend. Somehow I picture like the
Well, they
relationship.
had to each other birth their babies together. They were
Yeah.
sister-in-laws.
Right.
So,
So here
yeah.
comes crazy Freydis out. She sees some Viking men are hiding. The 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 Skrailingar are heading this way, and she picks up a sword and she rips her dress, uh, well, call it a dress, and bares her breast and starts beating the sword against her breast, slapping it against her breast, and
And
yelling at
yelling
these
at her
people.
men like, "You guys are
Yeah,
weaklings."
yeah. And she says, why run away from such worthless creatures, stout men that ye are, when it seems to me likely you might slaughter them like so many cattle? She's like, even you guys are Vikings. Why are you so afraid of these people? I think I could fight them better than you, she says. And this freaked out the indigenous people so bad. This crazy wild hair, I'm sure redheaded,
Yeah.
bare-breasted pregnant woman, hot with hormones, slapping
Yeah.
this sword
Yeah.
against her breast, yelling at her men. She's not yelling
Yeah.
at yelling at her dudes. And this scares off the indigenous people so much that they run off, and that's the end of the battle.
Yeah, she is truly a Valkyrie at that moment,
And she
a
did and then
warrior
she
woman.
took yeah, isn't this where she came upon
Yeah,
oh, yeah, she came upon a dead man. So she took the sword from one of her own dead people and starts slapping
yelling at
yeah,
yeah. Which to me, it's, so if you could write a bunch of stuff about Freydis versus Gudrid or blah, 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 blah.
totally.
Um, but but it speaks to the fact that so the Sami people and the polar indigenous traditions, there was a separation between men and women. And so you didn't see women warriors in
Oh,
those traditions. But in the Norse tradition, as
you
we
did.
discussed, you've got women that show up in graves that somehow that gender division was very different
Yeah.
among the Norse people, and we don't know why it was that way, but women, you carried your own
Oh,
weapons, you were so that might have really scared the indigenous men who their women did not ever
oh.
fight.
And this image of a woman, like, it's
I
not
know.
she's she's not in chains, I mean, she's just and Carl Snothney and the group praised her, she was praised for it, and it would be interesting, like, she's one whale, Gudrid's the other whale, it's just the contrast of, like you're saying, these 2 women is really cool.
The pagan woman versus the
Mhm.
Christian woman versus you could put them on the ship and each praying to a different god. You could, when they were having babies, they would have been the midwives.
Yeah,
So what
yeah,
superstitions, you could just go crazy with that, but that's what makes the sagas so alive. Everyone should read them because
yeah,
here's this crazy woman in the middle of this battle. You don't see this in the colonial times, right? You don't and then they're done. There's evidence
exactly.
that at Lanso Meadows, they left.
Like,
Like, they
quickly. Mhm,
quickly
and
left
as we were leaving, um oh, one thing reminded me what you were saying with, the colonial women, I can't remember. But yeah, so, um, they left, so they packed up quickly and left. Dang it, I wish I could remember, but
um,
I don't know.
you'll
It doesn't
remember.
but, yeah, so they quickly pack up and leave because they know that this is going to turn violent. In one saga, they do take I mean, this is probably why this is another reason, they took
Yeah.
2 indigenous boys back with them, and they did get to learn a little bit about I don't know if this is after, but they got to learn a little bit about that this tribe doesn't live in houses, they live in caves.
Yeah, that's right.
Gave them a
That's
little bit they knew about the people in Ireland.
Mhm.
They were aware of they knew these people, they had actually sailed to their shores and watched them kinda thing.
Which is interesting that none of that traveled back to England or France or through any of these Nordic networks that like, "Hey, we've" but I guess they brought Scottish people, they're gonna bring back other people, but it didn't that's why they're
Yeah,
starting to see DNA show up in Iceland and places like that that is not Sami or, um, we'd have
yeah,
to verify that, but that's what I read. But yeah, I mean, they
yeah.
literally went there, they left evidence, they went there several times, and no one made a big deal about it.
They don't get the credit of it. And they were Christians, so there's that, but they weren't Spanish, they weren't Freemasons. So,
Yeah, they were yeah,
I don't
they
know.
were explorers, and Gudrid so now that's why she's one of the most well-traveled women ever.
Yeah. Oh, so on their way out that's right, when on their way out, they did encounter this one-legged,
Oh, yeah.
one last kinda skirmish with a one-legged indigenous person who ran off. Um, so that's interesting, and they followed the mountains back, and they came back, um, and then they don't go back. I mean, it's just
Yeah. Yeah, they never go back.
yeah,
But then you could follow the lingering, indigenous beliefs that the later people encountered where they weren't surprised to see. They weren't surprised to see Columbus and these dudes as Columbus and those dudes were to see them. So
right,
some the story never carried
right.
past, and it became a fairy tale and a myth and a saga until now we can verify it.
Do you think they did that on purpose to
I don't know. I don't know.
protect it, like, for their backup plan or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like we're forgetting some important part before we send them back. Something's
I
nagging at
know.
me.
Okay, well, we are gonna leave them there for a minute, and our next episode we'll
Well,
send
I
them there.
do have to say, I'm sorry. I think we should tell about the other end of the story with Freydis, just the flippy
Yeah,
floppy, just to get that done. Sorry, I have a
yes,
teenage daughter at home. Um, yeah,
yes.
so the other version is the multiple travel version is that they all go back. Freydis still has a craw or ants in her pants, and hang on, sorry. Can I grab something? I'm doing a podcast. Wait just a minute. Okay. Um, so Freydis, do you want me to tell this story?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. She gets her husband, she and her husband, and two dudes from Iceland or somewhere, two merchant guys. And I think they're nice. They're pretty honorable guys. She gets another expedition organized.
Oh, yeah,
And
she
Gudrid doesn't
organized
want to go. Yeah, Carlson, they're all like, we're done. We're going to
that.
go. This is when Carlson and Gudrid go to Norway, I think. And that chapter is closed for them, but not for Freydis. And so
She's got
she gets,
business.
yeah, she gets another expedition. She gets Leif to promise that they can use his camp again at Lonsay Meadows. And she promised she needs the boat. So she makes a deal with these two men that, let's all go in even Stevens, and we'll use your boats and you can use when we get there, come together. These two
Mhm.
guys go out ahead and they get to the camp and they establish it. And she shows up and is kind of upset that they're on this camp. She kicks them out. She's like, yeah, we're a team, but you can't. This is my brother's place and you got to go set up your own place. So they set up their own camp a little further up. And, oh my gosh, my sagas are going to blend. Is she the one? She goes barefoot. Okay. So she wakes up and
Yeah,
she,
crazy.
she's pissed because there's a lot of single men again and they're fighting over the women
Mhm,
and she's greedy kind of the way it's written.
mhm.
And she sneaks out one morning barefoot and goes over to this other group's camp and makes a deal with them, kind of double crosses them that like if you pack up your boats and your ships, am I telling this right?
Yep, yep.
Um, and so then she sneaks back to her camp, sneaks back in bed with her husband. He notices her cold, wet feet and kind of suspects like something's up. And she double crosses this other group, wants her people to kill them, um, so they can bring the laden boats of goods for herself back to Greenland.
Yeah,
And men won't do it. Her husband and her men are like, no, this is a wicked plan. We're not going to slaughter this other camp of people to bring back all the goods to Greenland. There's women and children in these camps. We're not going to do it. She grabs a sword and she slaughters. I think the men kill the men, but they won't kill the women and children. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
She gets a sword and she herself kills the women and the children. And then they get on this boat and she makes everybody promise, don't ever tell anybody what happened over there. Comes back over to Greenland, wealthy, and nobody knows what happened. And obviously someone told because it's in the saga.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, but
that's great.
I mean, if you have the stereotypical Viking
Yeah.
berserker, she's
Yeah.
the one of them that is that. I mean, who brought that girl?
She's getting
But
stuff done. It's Eric the Red's daughter.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's when people want to tell the story of the saga, they'll wrap it up with like the demise was greed. In the end, greed
the
ended
Christian moral.
the exploration of America didn't happen because they were too greedy and blah blah blah. And it usually has to do with this Freydis story.
Mhm.
Um,
Blame Freitas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we wrap it up then.
Wow. Yes, and, feel free in comments to ask questions because there's so much more to this story, so,
Yeah.
yes, but yeah, so this is Gudrid and how casual they are about going back and forth, you know, as
Yeah.
opposed to the whole Columbus fest that's been going on for years and years, so,
It's
Yeah,
so interesting. I'm sure there's work being done on the indigenous side of their histories and stories. Why is it so hard to well, this was hard to get. We had to go after this. Maybe
this
we
was
just need to
hard to
go
get.
after. Yeah.
This was hard to get, and there's yeah, I think what we need to encourage is other women to start telling the stories of their culture and teasing them out. It'll have to take the women that belong to those traditions to be able to do it, I think.
Yeah, and not be afraid to tell the story, to speculate, to be
Right,
wrong,
right.
say you're not aren't sure, but you think this, because that's the only way. When the demand for such, we talked about this before. I think so many things get shut down because the demand for black and white is
Yes.
there, and for good reason. But I think in order to weave these two, here we are again trying to weave the European and the
Yeah,
indigenous together,
yeah.
and,
Suture the human story together somehow.
yeah, and we're drawn together.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's
I
not gonna be a black and white
Yep.
thing.
I mean, that's why there's always keep people who wanna be the story keepers and who feel that burden of, "We gotta
In the locker room behind the door. Sorry.
protect it and share it," and that's what we're trying to do, and be great to form a community of storytellers, story keepers that wanna share both sides of a story, you
And it'd
know?
be cool if we could have a database or something where we have each story, and then you could pull out little familiar things from, because like what you do when you read, and one little thing
Yeah,
was like, "Hmm, and I read this in here," and then somehow combine it. Like this article did with the red hair. Like, I
yeah,
know this has red hair and bigger eyes, and here's a saga, a Norwegian saga that's talking about someone with, and then they put it together in this article. It was just, so that would be cool,
I
something like
love it. Yeah. Okay, well,
that.
come on.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for
Thank
your side
you.
knowledge. That was great. All right,
Alright. Hey,
take care
love you.
of Skrellings in your
What
house.
what's that?
Or take care of your own Skrellings in your
Yeah,
house.
I know. I know it's
All right.
school's out, so we're
Yeah,
getting crazy.
right. Okay, love
Alright,
you.
love
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, shoot.